In this video I'm going to show you a watercolor I did from the story Quap and the Frigidaire. Welcome to Steve Draws. I'm Steve, a Dutch artist, and I've been working on black and white stuff for Inktober because I've been working on my comic Quap and the Frigidaire, and I really wanted to make something in color again. So I took an illustration from the story. It's Quap Hippo walking through a dark forest, and I got inspiration from movies such as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and a lot of old Arthur Rackham illustrations. And with that inspiration I painted this illustration. So this is the Procreate file I worked in, and I'm just gonna go over all the layers. This is the original illustration from the comic and it's all in black and white. So I use that as a base for the watercolor. So what I do is I bring down the opacity so I can paint over it on a separate layer. And I'm not quite sure which layer because there are just too many layers I worked on. And I'm just going to turn this illustration off. This is the base layer. And these are just some simple washes. And I just build up the illustration, and most of the layers are set to multiply because with multiply you can build up your colors. You need to be careful because it will turn out very dark soon, so you really gradually need to build up your colors. And here's where I added a branch to the tree, and here's Quap Hippo. And for this layer I used a different mode, linear burn, because that will burn into your painting that's underneath. You just have to, play around with these modes sometimes to get different effects. Here are some shadows on Quap. Also tried this one to get a different tone of the entire illustration. I didn't use that. Sometimes I also use a layer to check out the black and white values. And what I do is I create a new layer, then fill it with pure white, and then set it to the blend mode color. And then you see your entire illustration in black and white. Then you can see if the values are right of your illustration. Here's another layer, and I added a little bit more color. And just build up your illustration. Before I started doing this watercolor, I took some inspiration from the illustration of the English illustrator Arthur Rackham, and he did a lot of watercolors. And another inspiration were the backgrounds or the art style of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, especially the backgrounds of the forest scene. And most of these watercolors were done by Maurice Noble, who later also worked on the backgrounds for the Looney Tunes. I first started doing the outlines on a separate layer, so I imported the illustration, the black and white illustration, and then went over it with the watercolor brush. And I'm using the watercolor brush set I already made, and it's still available on Gumroad. The main brush I used was the Stave Water Brown. So I first did the outlines and painted everything in a gray tone, and I did that on a separate layer, and then on a layer underneath I started doing the colors. So the gray washes was set to multiply, and I do that a lot with the watercolors because watercolors are a transparent medium, and I just wanted to capture the same feeling as you're drawing or painting with watercolors on paper. I'm switching a lot between looking at the original illustration, and I also had to expand the illustration because it is for a cover, so it's a different size. And what I love about watercolors is that it is a translucent medium, so you can play with colors. So I started out the base of the trees were a little bit purple, and then I built up on those colors. And you really need to keep it light, because when you paint too much on it, then it will become opaque, and then you lose the effect of the watercolors. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit that notification bell, because each time I upload a new video, you get a notification. Drawing is fun, and practice makes perfect. See you next time. Doodles!